We know that healthcare executives have their sights on high reliability, just culture, and psychological safety. In true capstone fashion, we're all about helping simplify the complex and helping entire healthcare organizations execute successfully on big, bold initiatives such as these. One such way that we can help is through our upcoming Healthcare Executive Forum. In its 13th year, this forum has been helping healthcare executives learn proven approaches for executing successfully on big, bold initiatives. So, whether you're just starting your journey to high reliability or well on your way, this event has something for everyone. Our time honored commitment is that every attendee leave with an actionable and impactful plan that they can just start when they get back to the office the next day. The event is on June 18th and 19th in Madison, Wisconsin, and you can go to capstoneleadership.net and under the resources page, look for the details on our upcoming events. Plan now for you and your executive team to attend. So these are 4 very specific, doable ways that psychological safety can be positively impacted. These are tactics that can dramatically improve trust and open communication. And it is only over time, as leaders repeatedly demonstrate that speaking up is met with appreciation and action, not punishment, more staff will feel safe attaching their names to their ideas and concerns and feedback.
Welcome to Culture Change RX, the podcast for healthcare professionals that are committed to creating a thriving workplace culture, improving the experiences of employees and patients, and ultimately unlocking their organization's next level of potential. I'm Sue Tetzloff, your host and co-founder of Capstone Leadership Solutions. Join me and my insightful guests each week as we share actionable insights for navigating the crucial people side of the business of healthcare. Subscribe now for a weekly dose of Culture Change RX. Now let's dive into this week's conversation where culture change takes center stage.
I'm so glad you're here today for another episode of Culture Change RX. This is Sue Tetzloff, the co-founder of Capstone Leadership Solutions and the host of Culture Change RX. And this is one of those solo episodes that we call a culture bite. And so this will be a shorter, small episode, but actually I'm going to be focused on a pretty big topic today, which is psychological safety. So, of course, in this episode, I'm only going to be able to talk about a small aspect about psychological safety, but you'll have some great takeaways. So, as many of you know, we're preparing to present for 2 days in June at our annual Healthcare Executive Forum on the topic of high reliability, just culture, and psychological safety. And so we have been digging into research and evidence and really contemplating the journey of our partner organizations, which are mainly community hospitals, but some other small healthcare organizations like nursing homes or physician practices and clinics or ambulatory surgery centers that we've worked with, is that we're really thinking about the application of these concepts and the journeys that our partner organizations have had as it relates to their pursuits of high reliability, just culture, and psychological safety. Because anyone that we're working with in our capacity at Capstone Leadership Solutions, any healthcare organizations that we're working with, they're really on this pathway of good to great, great to even greater. And, we've watched them and helped them and guided them along that pathway to put in systems and a culture that supports them in that continuous effort to improve and grow. And the high reliability, psychological safety, and just culture are aspects of that continuous improvement journey that they're on. And in really pondering that in preparation for this June event, got to thinking about when we first start working with a new healthcare organization, one of the first things that we're doing is we're digging into data and information like safety incidences, near misses, their processes for training and developing leaders and employees, looking at employee survey results, quality and financial data, et cetera. So we're really getting a great snapshot of the current state of the organization. And then we help them to prioritize, aligned with their key strategic priorities. What is it that teams need to have on their action plans? What is it that leaders need to have on their development and action plans? What is it that the organization needs to set for measurable goals and action plans, and departments set for goals and action plans, etc.? And when we're doing this and we're looking at the data and then we're helping them use that data and that information over time, is that one of the things that we notice as a baseline starting point or theme in many organizations is that, for instance, when it comes to employee surveys, and maybe they did an annual employee survey, what we find is that maybe they have a really low response rate to that annual survey. And we'll be working with them to say is, we need a higher response rate with better data and more information to be able to make sure that we're prioritizing the most important things to be worked on, either at an organization level or at a department level. And then this statement always seems to come up about the fact that we can't get, or we haven't been able to get, a higher response rate because people don't trust the anonymity of completing the survey. And they won't say even what department they work with or how long they've worked there because they're afraid they'd be found out. And again, some people don't even fill out the survey because they don't even trust that, even if they don't put their name on it, even if they don't answer any of the questions about identifiers of department or otherwise, that, they'll be found out. And so that's a pretty common finding and observation that we have, is that employees really want anonymity to fill out an annual survey. And then that goes deeper than that. And then you see evidence of that same desire for anonymity when reporting safety incidences or near misses or filing a complaint or even filling out a training evaluation. So that really leads to a thought-provoking question and has me pondering, why do so many highly educated healthcare professionals hesitate to attach their names to feedback or concerns, or even just their perceptions of their employee experience? So in essence, their baseline culture is one of anonymity and people not feeling safe to own their voices. That might even be true for suggestions, right? Putting a suggestion in the suggestion box and not even putting your name on it. And you just have to wonder, is this because they fear being singled out or punished? And is this an indicator of lack of psychological safety? I would suspect maybe that anonymity is a protective measure, and that possibly the over-reliance on anonymity in a culture indicates a lack of trust in leadership's response to honest feedback. So I've used the phrase a few times now already in these first few minutes, this phrase of psychological safety, and you may or may not be familiar with that concept as of yet. But in essence, high psychological safety describes a team climate where people feel safe to take interpersonal risks, to share ideas, and speak up about errors or concerns without fear of retribution or shame. One of the leading researchers and sources on this topic is Harvard researcher Amy Edmondson, and she emphasizes that in healthcare settings, psychological safety is correlated with saving lives and improving outcomes, and that in low psychological safety environments, we have missed opportunities for improvements, we have stifled creativity, we have increases in medical errors and patient safety risks, and there is an emotional toll on staff as well. And you might want to think about low psychological safety as creating organizational blind spots. So at our upcoming Healthcare Executive Forum that we're hosting in Madison, Wisconsin on June 18th and 19th, the audience of executives there, we're going to be covering a lot of amazing, practical, doable tactics that they can just start to elevate psychological safety in their workplaces, but also to support them on their journeys to becoming a high reliable organization and one that has a culture of psychological safety as well as a fair and just culture. But I thought it might be great to start on the podcast providing some glimpses into some of the things that organizations and in particular leaders can do if they do have their sights on becoming a high reliable organization and elevating their culture in these ways. So today I want to share 4 very practical tactics that leaders can use to foster a workplace culture where staff will speak up and own their voices. The first would be to embrace both anonymous and identified feedback. So, really accepting that anonymous reporting may be necessary as a starting point in a low trust environment. I remember when I was the chief quality officer at a small hospital, and in that role, I spent a lot of time with our medical executive committee and the various divisions of our medical staff on their quality improvement efforts. And I remember that at one point early on in our journey to move from good to great, great to even greater, I remember our executive committee saying, we shouldn't accept patient complaints. We shouldn't accept staff complaints about providers and care or peer complaints from providers unless they're willing to put their name on it, right? But to be honest, our organization wasn't at that point yet in the level of people being willing to speak up. And we'd rather have the information than miss out on that information because we didn't have a known source. So tactic number one is to embrace the reality of whatever this is and wherever you are in your organization and wherever the people are in your organization. Even in very high trust cultures with high psychological safety, you may still have those people that have had some past experiences, maybe not even in your organization, but others where they have experienced this fear, some consequences that were negative, and they just haven't been able to overcome that yet. So as organizations, we can be in various places when it comes to this. And as individuals, people can be at various places when it comes to their sense of security and safety around this. So if we really have our sights on high reliability and zero defect and zero harm and embracing a spirit of continuous improvement, tactic number one is to embrace both anonymous and identified feedback. And tactic number two is to respond loudly and often about anonymous or identified feedbacks. So finding ways to publicly acknowledge all feedback, share success stories where feedback led to a constructive outcome or a process improvement. And an example of that might be, a statement like, we received feedback on how to streamline post-operative handoffs, and here's the change we implemented, and here's the great results that we're seeing based on this change, right? So when we can loudly connect the dots and do this often and really say, we've got this feedback, and based on that feedback, this change was made and it's resulting in this improvement, then we're not just encouraging people to speak up, but we're giving them evidence that their voice is heard and that it matters and makes a difference. So we have to show that data. We have to tell those stories, and we have to do this loudly and often and give a nod to the feedback or the information that was received, anonymous or otherwise. A third tactic that can help in this regard is for leaders to model vulnerability and openness. And this looks as simple as leaders being willing to discuss their own mistakes and learning experiences. These could be a great conversation starter about risk and errors during team huddles or staff meetings, and really encouraging questions and conversation around the leader's mistakes. This allows that leader to model that they feel safe, not just verbalizing their mistakes, but really engaging in deeper questioning and conversation about those mistakes. And number four, just another emphasis point on this idea of celebrating the brave voices. So when an individual does identify themselves specifically by name, when they come forward with an idea or concern or feedback and a positive change results from that, I want to make sure we give them credit, right? So if they put the suggestion in the suggestion box and they put their name on it, or they gave feedback on a training evaluation, or they gave feedback on the employee survey, and that led to a positive change, really making sure that they get credit and that they're celebrated for not only their suggestion or feedback or idea, but also for their brave voice. So these are four very specific, doable ways that psychological safety can be positively impacted. These are tactics that can dramatically improve trust and open communication. And it is only over time, as leaders repeatedly demonstrate that speaking up is met with appreciation and action, not punishment, more staff will feel safe attaching their names to their ideas and concerns and feedback. It makes sense that When people see tangible outcomes and feel appreciated, their trust in leadership grows, and so does their willingness to speak up openly. All culture change is a journey, and the aspect of that relates to psychological safety, truly, there is no pixie dust. There is no quick fix. This is definitely one of those things that involves a culture shift, but this is a big and an important one in a healthcare environment. I truly hope that your healthcare organization is committed to creating a hospital culture where every professional feels comfortable and empowered to own their own voice, and that we don't just encourage it, but we give them evidence that their voice is heard and then it matters. I would even boldly say that when it comes to our patients and our employees, this is one of the most important gifts we can give to creating a safe workplace and a safe place for patients to receive care. And today you've got 4 doable, practical, tactical ideas that can help you do just that. Embrace both anonymous and identified feedback, respond loudly and often to feedback, model vulnerability and openness, and celebrate the brave voices. And as we always like to say here at Capstone Leadership Solutions is just start and then keep going. And something else you can consider doing is to check out our Healthcare Executive Forum that is all about the topic of high reliable organizations, a fair and just culture, and psychological safety, and how to make that simple and doable where you work. There'll be a link in the show notes with more details, or you can go to Capstone Leadership, and under the resources tab, you can find our upcoming events. Looking forward to being back with you again next week for another weekly episode of Culture Change RX.
Thanks for tuning in to Culture Change RX. If you found value in today's episode and you are a believer in fostering change in healthcare, join us in making a difference. Follow, rate, and review our podcast on your favorite platform. Share it with colleagues and your network. Together, we can make a lasting impact. Until next week, keep inspiring positive change.